Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Mr. Dejr Bostick. Mr. Bostick, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be on the show.
Man, it's a pleasure having you here today. Mr. Bostick is a transformation coach, mental health speaker, and breath work specialist. But before we get into the conversation itself, I will have Mr. Bostick himself to share more about himself so we can get to know who he is before we get into the conversation. Mr. Bostick, please share with the listeners who you are before we get into the conversation today.
Okay. I always start everything with just an attitude of gratitude for this moment, this opportunity just to exist, to be in my passion. I am definitely a human from very humble beginnings, a Black man from very humble beginnings, born in Miami, Florida, to two amazing parents. Ended up living with my grandparents for a little bit. And they're Bahamians, starch Bahamians, definitely traditional Caribbean folk. And then my mother at that time had moved away. So we had to live with my grandparents. From there, we ended up moving from there to my parents. And that really started a beautiful journey. She had married an amazing man that came in and became a father to me. And showed me so many things and disciplines, and really showed me how to really be a man, how to stand up as a man, and how to take care of responsibilities. And it took me a while for some of those lessons, but it's been an absolute amazing journey. And I think that's what fuels what I do in the world today. So that's one of the things that I'm always able to do, is just share with Black men that the rest of your days are truly the best of your days. So thank you so much.
Man, that's amazing. Getting a good foundation, I do believe, is important, especially for us as Black men, which sometimes it's not always the case for many of us as Black men, because some of us grew up in an environment where we weren't guided in the way for us to really navigate our own life. And sometimes it can cause us as Black men not to go on the right path, or even to realize our own potential, because we get distracted by the noise that's happening around us, especially if you grew up in an environment where you don't have all the necessary resources, you don't have the foundation, and you don't have the resources, which can put you in a bad situation if you don't have the right guidance. But it's great to have you here, great to know of your background and your experience and some of the work that you're currently doing, which we'll have the opportunity to talk about during the conversation. But what I want to start with today is, what is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, thank you for using that word mindset. I think that's what guides majority of everything that we do, is how set is your mind on whatever that particular goal is. I think your mindset needed in this climate, in this place that we're in right now, is really self-belief. You're talking about going through a pandemic where Black men were forced to watch another Black man be heinously murdered. That took an effect. It made Black men as a whole feel in some parts that they were helpless. So majority of them during that time, they decided that they would have the mindset that they wouldn't make too much noise. They would shrink, they would hide. And I think now more than ever before, the mindset needed is that you're able to rise, that you're able to come forth, that your gifts are needed, that your work is needed, that our community needs you. And I think that's the mindset that's needed. So as a Black man, I wake up every morning knowing that, guess what? I got an opportunity to become my dreams, right? A lot of times we talk about from this mindset that I have to chase my dreams. What that means, I'm always in pursuit. But if I become them, I mean, every day I get to embody the mindset of my goals. I get to embody the thought process of my goals. I get to be a better friend, a better husband, a better father, and all of these particular things. So that all boils down to a mindset that I choose that I'm going to win today. So I think that's the mindset that's really needed, is that self-belief. Believe in yourself. Yeah.
And just listening to you sharing about the mindset and how important it is, Being that, especially being that you bring up the experience during the pandemic where we all witnessed the murder of the black male, the black man.
Yeah.
I think it did really affect us, as you mentioned, where we think we have to shrink ourselves. And in some environments, a lot of times you find black men
Right.
thinking that they can't be as great. How are people going to perceive their greatness?
Hmm.
So, let me be less than.
Yes.
So
Yes.
people don't see me as threatened. Or how do you encourage black men who feels that way
Oh
in an
man.
environment?
Absolutely. It's amazing. I did a interview for Fox News about a year and a half ago, and they asked me the question. They said, "How do black men navigate white spaces?"
Wow.
And I said, "We do not." I said, "When I am in my gift, it's needed." Right? I said, when a black man shows up fully embodied, fully aware, fully confident, his gift is on display. His gift is needed. And I think whenever we get to a place where that we fail to realize that, that's a dangerous place. So it starts with how your morning starts. What is your self-talk? How are you talking to yourself every morning? When I get up and I brush my teeth, I look into that mirror, right? And when I look into that mirror, I'm affirming who I already say I am, right? I get an opportunity, which is a blessing. Back in 2021, I stepped on stage to bodybuild for the very first time. I had started training in November of 2020. I was 233 pounds. When
Wow.
I stepped on stage March 13 of 21, I was 146 and I won my first bodybuilding show.
Wow.
Somebody asked me the question. They said, Brother Bostick, how did you do that? I said, I got a glimpse of what I was creating, and every day I pursued him until I became him.
Wow.
That is a cadence of visualization that I'm visualizing the end. And every day, how does he train? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he behave? How does he respond? And you become that individual, but it takes consistency. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I would say is that self-awareness and being and just embracing your uniqueness.
That's really powerful right there. Just hearing you talking about your transformation. But it
Mhm.
goes back to what you said in the beginning, that it's important that we believe in ourselves. And if we
Yes,
believe in ourselves, then the dream, the goal becomes easier because you're working from a place of belief.
that's right.
And I think that's where a lot of us get it wrong, where we have these goals, these dreams, but because
Mhm.
we don't believe, we are
That's
not
right.
going to. Because to be consistent, you have to believe in yourself.
That's right.
And I think, that's one of the hurdles for us as Black men. We have
That's
to
right.
get over. We have to have this firm belief despite the
Mhm.
opinions, despite what we have heard about
That's right.
ourselves, because sometimes we do internalize the false narrative. And if
Yes.
we make that become a part of our consciousness,
Right.
then we're not going to become all that we are capable of becoming. So I really appreciate you sharing the importance of self-belief and how that in itself will help us to become all that we are capable of becoming. So I'm
That's
going to
right.
go into the next question. And this conversation that we're having is focused on what Black men can do and what we're doing to
Mm.
make a difference, not just for ourselves, but for our community. So my
That's right.
next question to you is, what advice do you have for the men listening and how they can play a role in creating positive change?
Oh man. I think it's embrace your uniqueness. And what I mean by that is that every one of us have a gift or a talent, right? It is God given. And sometimes society may look at that particular gift as one way or another. And then what we do, we hide that gift. But I believe that every person, there's a generational ethnos, right? A people group that needs your gift. They need your quirkiness, they need your love, they need your compassion, they need your strength. And I think so often if the community doesn't find it conducive that Black men in a particular space, they release their gift, they retract their gift back. But I believe that if we would just embrace our uniqueness, right? that we're able to find a community that are able to move around that, whatever your gift is. But I think one of the biggest things is for you to be able to say, you know, this is who I am, right? In all honesty. I tell people all the time that the older I get now, more of a weirdo I become. And I mean, when I say weirdo, I mean from a standpoint, I don't think like everybody else. I choose to love individuals from a very high place because I have learned to love myself from a very high place. And I used to, because I was a Marine veteran, in one of the greatest fraternities, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, that is known to be about really manhood. So I had to become something that was less me. And then one day I made a decision. I said, this is how I would show up in the world, that I do love, that I do care. I am full of compassion and things like that. So I think to answer the question, I would tell a Black man, embrace your uniqueness. God gave you that quirkiness. God gave you that whoever you are for a reason, so that you can find your tribe and find your people.
I think, man, that is really important, and that's something that I learned late in
Mm,
my life. That we all have something unique, and we have to embrace that uniqueness, and that's what really helped me, to change my perspective of self. And because,
yes.
growing up thinking that, oh, they are different, or this is what they're doing, and then take the light off what I'm capable of doing. Because we stop focusing on who we are, or what we
Yep.
can contribute to the world, or what we can use to take us from where we are to where
Right.
we can be. And
That's right.
and what, as you mentioned about uniqueness, and I really do believe that
Yeah.
is what we have to use as Black men to
Yeah.
change our situation, to change how we show up in the world. As you mentioned, that we all don't have the same gifts, the same talents, the same anything. And whatever we have, that's what
Mhm.
we need to give to the world. And
Yeah.
maybe in doing what we are capable of doing, in the process, we can help other people, other Black men, to realize what they can do through doing what we are capable of doing.
What's so amazing about what you just kind of expressed is that's one of the things that I tell and I share with Black men is that within you is all that you need. That you have to learn to get to a place to understand that first of all, you are enough,
Right.
right? There are two main fears. There are only two types of fear, right? The two fears are that I won't be loved is one fear, and I am not enough. They guide every part of our relationship. You won't ask for that job because you think I'm not enough.
Right.
You won't you allow people to treat you anyway because I won't be loved. So there's only two main fears that drive everything about us. And when we're able to identify what those particular things are and we seek to dismantle them, then now I can become my very best version. Because now that's a weight off of my shoulder. Now I can ascend to be something more and something better. So I think when a Black man embraces that when I walk into this room, when I walk into this space, when I walk into my community, that I am 100% me. I am authentically me, despite what society may say, that I am authentically me. And I think that's what definitely one of the messages for Black men.
And I think that is really important because society have beaten us so much. We sometimes internalize that defeat and
Yes.
thinking that we cannot be our best in certain environments. As you mentioned, that we may not even make the attempt to
Hmm.
go after that opportunity because
Yep.
we are saying that, man, I'm not going to do the best that I can in this space, or maybe the people, they're not going to appreciate what I have to offer. But we have to be confident within ourselves, despite the environment or despite the people that we may find ourselves around. One of the things that I like to, especially working with students, I like to tell them that you have to be you in the space that you are in.
Mhm.
Because if you try to be somebody else, the people may like you, but guess what?
Right.
You may end up not liking yourself. And that's not really the best way to live.
Right.
You have to learn to be yourself and like yourself, despite the environment that you're in. So I really, appreciate that perspective, especially when
If
we're
I can
thinking
add,
about creating change.
yeah, if I can add one more quick thing, when it comes even to just being in that space, right? It all boils down to energy. Whenever you walk into a room and you already feel inadequate, that energy is going to precede it. People going to feel it. They're going to feel that, man, he ain't confident. They're going to feel that, guess what? He's unsure. Or why is he shrinking? Because it shows up in our body language, right? I'm big on mind, body, spirit. I call it the Trinity.
Yeah.
But it guides everything. So if my mind is already feeling inadequate, my body is going to become subjective to it. So now my content, the way I move, I might, if I was in a comfortable space, I might talk to everybody, but an uncomfortable space, I might not talk to nobody.
Hmm.
So you already proceeding. So one of the things that I always do, I take my 3D breaths. I'm big on breath work because what that does, that centers my mind. So now I can think very clearly. I can be myself. I don't have to shrink. And it deals with, of course, depression and anxiety and those particular things. But whenever you're in a space where that you feel that you're less than, then that's where the energy. So every room that you enter in now as a Black man, or to the listeners, already think that you are going to be wanted, you're going to be loved, you're going to be accepted, right? Because it's at the end of the day, it's however you project it. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think from that standpoint, walk into those rooms confident, knowing that guess what, your gift is needed, and who you are is needed as well.
I really like that perspective, that where we must think that our gifts are needed. And I
Yes.
think once you get to that point, you're going to show up, and sometimes you may find yourself outshining, those people in the environment, because you feel so confident within yourself. Because
Yep.
sometimes you go into an environment and you are amongst people that are not so confident, then
Absolutely.
it becomes so easy to stand out, because
Absolutely.
you feel good about yourself, and what you have to offer is needed. And I think
Absolutely.
that's something that as Black men we need to be reminded of, and how important it is, especially knowing that the perception that
Right.
others may have of us will change once
Yes.
we step in, because we are somewhat responsible to help others to have a different perspective of
That's
us.
right.
And that is determined in the way we show up in the spaces that we are in, because just as how we are conditioned, they are
Hmm.
conditioned, to
Yes.
see us in a certain way, and we have to show them that
Hmm.
we are not what you may have been conditioned to think
There
about
it is.
us as Black men. So I really, appreciate that perspective, and I hope we can talk about the mental health piece, that
Absolutely.
you are doing. But I'm going to ask, yeah, we will definitely talk about how did you get into the
Absolutely.
mental health, coming from being a Marine. And
Yep.
before we start the conversation, I know you mentioned that you were also an athlete. So we're going to see
Absolutely.
how all that ties in with
Hmm.
what you're doing now, because I believe being an athlete also can help you to develop that confidence within yourself. But my next question to you is, how can we as Black men help to
Hmm.
change the narrative today? And you can speak from whichever perspective.
Okay. I think the way that we continue the narrative now is really look within, right? And what I mean by that is that majority of the time when we're dealing with systemic barriers, systemic injustices and things like that, it's easy for us to point the finger at others, right? As a reason for why we cannot advance. But whenever we're able to say, you know what, I've been pointing the fingers at everybody else. What can I now do to chase my dreams, to become my dreams, to embrace my dreams, right? I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is to look at ourselves and say, you know, what energy and what am I putting out into the world? Am I showing a confident man, or am I showing a man that the world just keeps beating up on, right? There's a perspective of everything. I often share with a lot of the Black men that's in a lot of my transformation programs is that it's not outside of you that matters. It's what's going on the inside. That is, if anybody can, he who controls the mind will control your life.
Correct.
If I can get in and I can change and create narratives in your mind of the woe is me syndrome, then now I've controlled you. But if I can fortitude an amount of mental fortitude to be able to say that no matter what life throws at me, I'll still win. That is a mindset. So one of the biggest things that whenever you have a mindset like that, everything about your life begins to change. You recognize that, guess what? If I've created a goal, that goal must be tested. So that means distractions have to come. If distractions are happening right now, you set a goal, guess what? You are on the path
Correct.
because everything worth it must be tested.
Yeah.
The things that I go through in my life, it don't shake and throw me around the way it used to. And I'm dealing with some pretty hard things right now and have been. But I keep a level head because I understand that these things have to happen
Correct.
because now there's a lesson to be learned from it. Yes, now as a Black man, I'm emotionally intelligent. So I feel the pain. I feel the sorrow of having family members and friends that committed suicide just recently, having an ailing grandparent, I mean, a great aunt that's going through right now, have elderly or parents that are getting a lot older. So I feel those emotions, right? I embrace them, man. This feels what it is. But then I make a decision that, guess what? In spite of it all, that means I get to love them more and savor those particular moments. So I'm big on what is called moments and memories, that I'm creating moments and memories. So I reach out to family members and just become a good friend. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I would kind of give to Black men right now.
And I really appreciate that perspective as you shared, where the challenges may come, but what we
Yeah,
do during the challenges is what makes the difference. So we have to realize, as you mentioned, that the challenges are not there to really stop us.
that's right.
But if you don't have that mindset or that perspective, a lot of
Hmm.
times that's where a lot of us give up on the dreams that we have. So
Hmm.
I really appreciate you sharing that reminder that once you're on the path, once you decide that you're going to pursue a goal or do
Hmm.
something with yourself in life, that being tested is part
That's
of the journey. And
that's right.
some of us don't take the test well,
Hmm.
where we experience challenges and then we see the challenge as a deterrence to what we want, not realizing that it should help us to even realize more about ourselves. Because
That's right.
we don't become the best of who we are in comfort.
Hmm.
We become the best of who we are once we start challenging ourselves.
Absolutely.
And sometimes life have to help us to challenge ourselves because we will do things the easiest way possible, not just us as Black men, just people on a whole. But
Absolutely.
when we embrace the challenge
Hmm.
as part of the journey, then
Absolutely.
it gives us that opportunity to dig deeper within ourselves. But I also like how you mentioned the emotional intelligence. How would you encourage Black men, especially from the mental health standpoint,
Right.
dealing with those challenges? How would you encourage Black men to continue
Hmm.
pressing forward?
Absolutely. I often go back to one of the practices that I lean into, which is breath work, right? Whenever we are mad, we're upset, angry, frustrated, these are emotions that within the neural pathways of the brain, but within the mind, it begins to take us offline, right? So we're not thinking clearly. We're not emotionally intelligent because now we have a bombardment of different emotions. So what happens in the body, that means that blood is flushing throughout the extremities. That's why Black men they want to find a way to get all this energy out. Breath work, what it does, it's going to center that mind, right? It's going to allow them to think before they make a decision. I think we've all have heard about situations where somebody said that I saw red or I went black because now you are offline, so you can't make a good decision. So we have Black men that are psychologically offline because they've been in a state of alarm their whole life, or because of trauma from the childhood, school, college, just being an adult. And again, we're talking about that pandemic era where Black men were seen as as being indispensable. I mean, that they were easily able to be eradicated.
Yeah.
So you have all of these different things that's going on in the mind, right? That you've been in a state of alarm. Breath work is going to now center that. It's going to bring you back coherent. It's going to allow you to think from a very clear place. And this clear place that allows you to think from, what it does, it's going to allow you to now be able to make reasonable and wise decisions. And most men, because they've been in a state of alarm, they're not making wise decisions anymore. So that's why I always start with breath work. If you can breathe, you can live. Think about it. It's the first thing that was given to you on your birth, and it's the last thing that returns. And it leads and guides your whole entire life. So I tell people all the time, even though I am a meditation practitioner and instructor, but before I even tell specifically Black men about meditation, I teach them how to breathe, because that's what they need right now when their wife or their baby mama or their colleague is getting on their nerves. That's an opportunity for them to quickly go from 10 back down to 0 and think from a clear place. So I think that's one of the first things that I give the Black men.
Yeah, I think that's a really important perspective, because a lot of us do grow up in an environment where, or not just an environment, but we have been taught not to express our feelings. And if we don't express our feelings, in a way, in a healthy way, it can cause anger. And learning the importance of taking those deep breaths,
Right.
I do believe that it will change some of the outcomes that some of us as Black men get ourselves in, because if we're not expressing how we feel, then it may comes out in anger. But knowing the importance of taking those deep breaths, I think can really change a lot of things. Because, and there's a thought that I was trying to remember, but I'll get back to it. The importance of deep breaths and stuff like that.
It's
But go ahead.
amazing. If I can share this, whenever I walk into schools, right, one of the first things that I do is I teach them, the kids, about breath work, right? I remember this one particular moment where it showed me how important representation is. I was sitting there in this class I was invited in, and I'm always sent to the schools that they got the baddest kids, right? And I often ask for those schools. I want the ones that you've forgotten. I
All right.
want those kids that you thought that there is no hope for them, and I teach them to breathe, right? So this particular session, we were in there, and the young man got to talking while I was talking, and his teacher, Caucasian woman, was saying, "Well, just don't worry about him." I said, so I told him very sternly, I said, "Sir, you have a time, but this is not it." And he got quiet. His teacher said, "How were you able to do that?" I said, "Because real recognizes real. Kids recognize when you really got a story and when you do not."
Right.
I had to, first of all, validate that, guess what? You have a time, right? There's your time to speak, but this is not it. I had to bring them to a place of understanding, because for so long, we've just been telling kids things and not telling them why.
Correct. Yeah.
So it creates a level of confusion. And then I showed them how to breathe. When you're upset, mad, he said, "Man, I went home and I told my parents." I made sure when my mom was angry now, did I tell her, "Mama, you're not breathing?"
That's
So
right.
it's a way to change your community as well. It's whatever you're teaching those kids. And I often say that they may not come to our communities, but I'm going to bring my knowledge to the schools, and that student will take it to the community, and it would transform it from the inside out, because we are in the generation now, because of the pandemic, that we're not breathing enough. We're not having those deep, intentional breaths anymore that aligns our mind, our body, and our spirit.
And I love that, and especially with the student taking back the knowledge
That's
to
it.
his home,
That's
because
right.
as you mentioned, that we may not be able to get into some of those homes or reach some of those parents, but if we reach the students, we
That's it.
will reach the parents,
Yeah,
because the student will take the message to
absolutely.
their home, especially when it helps them,
That's
because
right.
that's what we have to really focus on, making sure what we are sharing with them help them from
That's right.
where they are. And I really like how you mentioned that real recognize real.
So indeed,
That is in itself cultural competency right there.
absolutely,
Knowing how to connect with those students, that's cultural competency. Because
absolutely.
going to environment knowing that some students have difficulties, and
Mhm.
knowing it, just
That's
by
right.
seeing the student behavior. Man, that's
Hmm.
cultural competency
Absolutely.
right there. And that's a perspective, or that's an awareness that
That's right.
as Black men, we need to become aware of, knowing the environment we're in, especially when we're on the journey to make a positive impact.
That's
Because
right.
when you go into a space, you want to know what's happening and how
Mhm.
best to serve, because the message that you bring now may not be the message you need to share. But you
Absolutely.
got to know, just as how you know in that moment, oh, I need to
Right.
get that student from where he is to where he
That's
needs
right.
to be so he can get the most out of that session that you're there to
And
provide. So, man, that's powerful.
you hit something on the head about where you are and where you. People ask me when I run these particular transformation groups. One of the biggest things that they always ask me is like, "Well, how do you know what message to bring?" And I say it's simple. I'm speaking to an old version of me, telling him how I got here.
That's right.
There's an old version of me that was full of fear and anxiety that lacked confidence inwardly, but outwardly I showed it. But inwardly, I wasn't confident. So I am talking to that version of me, telling them, how do you get here? How
Correct.
do you fully embody this version of you that when you walk into rooms, people want to know who you are? How
Right.
did you get to that place from being that the person that walked into rooms and shrunk because what did they want to know about me? So I had to now get a cadence with myself of knowing that guess what? I'm just speaking to an old version of me. What
Correct.
did he need then to get him here? Because now I'm in the community. I'm in the school systems. I'm doing I'm socially engaged. I'm connected to my fraternity. I'm a great friend. I'm a great husband. I'm a great father. All of these things because of one decision that I continue to pour into men to show them how to get here. Because whatever you pour in, you get back. So that I'm not pouring from an empty cup anymore.
Man, that's important and powerful when it comes to making the connection
That's right.
with those we choose to serve, because we're serving them, we're helping them to realize what's possible through our own experience because we were once there. And I think that really makes it easier to
Mhm.
connect because you know where you're coming from.
That's
And I
right.
think that's really important. So I'm going to go into the next question. And
Mhm.
I know that you're doing a lot of different things now, but I know that this is not where you start your journey. As I mentioned earlier, as you mentioned, that you were in the military, you
Mhm.
also started as an athlete, but we want to hear what or who has
Ah.
influenced or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on. You can start where you have started before you get to this point, but we
Mhm.
want to hear who or what inspired you to
Yeah.
do the things that you have done so far on your journey.
Of course, my first example was my mom and my dad, right? They sacrificed a lot for us, and it was 9 of us. So it's 6 boys and 3 girls. I have a
Wow.
very big family. All of us are highly intelligent, good looking, and we're close. We talk. We have a group chat. We check on each other,
Wow.
and so she was always my representation of what it meant to have perseverance, right? Having that many kids, and then of course my stepfather kept coming in. I call him stepfather only for the course of this, but he's my father.
Yeah.
He came in my life. I was 11 years old. He taught me scripture.
Wow.
He taught me how to understand the spirit of things, right? He didn't teach me religion. He taught me spirit. He said, when you get into this word, it'll open up to you and it'll become alive and it'll guide your life, right? So during the hardest moments of my life, I leaned to those principles. And when I became a healed man, because I went through some rough patches, when I became a healed man and my wife entered to my life, she showed me the power of love. She showed me how love will evolve you. It'll make you think higher, more, vast. And she was really my who. My wife is my inspiration. I watch how she served on city council here in Greenville. South Carolina for 12 years. I watched how she ran the Urban League as the first Black woman president of the Urban League. I watch how she now leads Winnebago Industries and runs their foundation. So she taught me a level of determination, of drive, and how to be organized. And I ain't the best at organization, I won't lie to you, but now I pay somebody to do that. Do what you do best, delegate the rest. But I watch how she gets up and that I get to support her goals, right? I get to be loved by her, and she's an example of sometimes our mirror, right? Those individuals that we love or we deem to be close, they're able to celebrate, and they had the opportunity to destroy as well, right? And but it's love that allows them to continue to interact with you from that place. And I think for me, having that type of support and love, she is one of my biggest inspirations right now of individuals that really never forgot where she came from and never forgot the community that she serves. And I take that with me every day, and it guides my life.
Man, just that's what you'd say now. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
it just inspiring to hear that experience and how your wife helps you to become a better version of yourself. Because I think that is important as Black men. I think that's really important for us, as we navigate this journey, having that wife there to really strengthen us as
Yeah.
we continue on the journey to do the work that we have in our heart. I think that is really important. And so let me ask, how did you get into mental health and why?
Oh man, it's an amazing story. So my father, my biological father's name is Calvin, and he's a genius. He went to the #1 boarding school in the U.S. He was accepted to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and University of Penn. He attended Yale. He taught himself 3 different languages.
Wow.
But when I was 3 years old, my sister was 2. My mom left him, and he had a mental breakdown.
Wow.
And he took me and my sister, and he put us on the front steps of an orphanage and walked away.
Wow.
And for the very longest, I felt that anything I loved would leave me. So even though I went to college and I played college sports, and I got an opportunity to go to a historically Black college, which is Benedict College, in the midst of all of that, I was still operating at 60%, 50% at times, because I was just unsure that would this lead me to. So one of the biggest things that happened is I sought out to seek, why do people believe what they believe? Why do they think the way they think? And it led me down a beautiful journey that I also had firsthand knowledge of what happens when you don't know what your next step will be. Where does your mind go? And it took me on a beautiful journey where I started seeking out holistic approaches to mental health. I understand, and I have a lot of friends that are therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists. I have a lot of friends that I believe in, that there does come a time where you may need medication. But for my journey, it wasn't that. My journey was to find the mental health approach, the holistic approach to mental health. So when I looked at George Floyd, and I looked at all of these individuals, specifically Black men that were dying, I wanted to create something that they could use right now to go from chaos to calm. From the time that the lights were in the rear view to the time that they were beside the window, how to quickly go from chaos to calm. And I found that place through breath work. I found that place of knowing that, guess what? This stabilizes the mind, because all it takes is one situation that can trigger us. How do I quickly, after I've been triggered, now de-escalate and self-regulate myself? And that was through breath work. But it was from watching my father. The beautiful part of this story is that I had somebody asked me one day, they were like, your father's dead. I said, no, he's not. They said, well, how do you know that? You ain't seen him since you were 3 years old. I said, because he hasn't seen but what became of me. I said, he ain't seen what I became. In 2000, this 2024 and 2022, I get a call. I was in Minneapolis getting ready to speak in St. Paul. 6 a.m. I get a call. They said, yes, is this Mr. Boss? I said, this is C. They said, this homeless man stumbled into the homeless shelter and said he's your father and to find his kids. I said, what's his name? He was like, Calvin. I said, that's my father. So I got a chance to talk to him. And one of the biggest things that he said, Dr. Cross, that stands with me to this day, he said, Dejr, he said, there was not a day that I did not think about you. He said, I knew that every 197 day when the mango trees were blooming, it was your birthday. And every 250th day when the avocado trees were blooming, it was your sister's birthday. He said, but I was hurt and I couldn't make a decision. And I replied to him. I said, Daddy, I've been there as well. I know what it's like to be a black man and to make a decision that you got to live with. He said, but I said, I get an opportunity to start here and create a new future versus going back to the past that neither one of us can return to. And you can see his expression because he probably never heard that. He probably had years of thinking about all of these situations. How would I feel toward him? Nope. Because I am you. To every black man, I am you. That's why I treat you at the highest level, because I am you. We are just moments and situations different, but I am you. And that allows me to understand that this world is on all of us. They're coming after all of us. But those that have the mental capacity to rise above that, they'll kiss their dreams in the mouth. And I believe that. I believe that.
Man, that's a really powerful story. Not just powerful in the sense that, you know, you get the opportunity to talk to your father about the experience, but when you were asked about your father and they alluded to you that you haven't talked to him, he must have been, you know, he died.
Yeah,
But with your confidence, just listening to you and how you may have shared it with that person, no, he's not, because he doesn't see the person
that's right. That I
that
became.
I've become. So, man, that is powerful. And I think that just listening to you, it gives you some assurance to
Yeah,
keep becoming, you
that's
know.
it.
So once, you
That's
know, you get to meet him, you
mm-hmm.
can actually share with him. But not only that, which I also take from you sharing that story, is that you believe
That's right.
that the experiences that we all have challenges, and that we should not penalize ourselves
Mm-hmm.
for the mistakes that we have made, but just to realize that that's part of the journey, that's our past. We can learn from it, but
Mm.
we should not penalize ourselves for what we have been through or what we have done that we may not be so proud of,
That's right.
because sometimes we are in a space where the decisions we make may not be the best decisions, but we
That's
still
right.
have to make those decisions at times. And so
That's right.
I really appreciate you sharing the story, but also
Yeah,
the lessons that
that's right.
comes with the story. I mean, that's really inspirational. And that leads me to my next question. What is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
Oh man, I think the current climate of black men today is that we're just unsure, right? We're unsure about where we are in the world. One of the things that I often share with a black man, specifically black men that's over 40, 40 is a very beautiful age, but it's also a very dangerous age, right? Because after 40, black men seem to settle into a deep routine, and they start going further and further back versus further and further forward.
Yeah.
Society looks at black men over 40 differently. They treat them totally different. And it's easy for black men to settle for just becoming obscure.
Yeah.
But I believe that even in that place, that they're able to also rise above that place, right? That's why I'm big on the physical body. I'm big on their morning routine. I'm big on what you put in your body. And I'm not a big health nut or anything like that, but I am very aware of what I put in my body intuitively.
Yeah.
If I have eaten crazy one day, I'm not going to eat crazy the next day.
Correct. Yeah.
There has to be a level of balance with kind of how you're moving. So and then your connection to who you believe and what you believe. For me, I don't debate with people about what they believe. That's your belief system,
Yeah.
but really believe it,
Yeah.
because there's a level of discipline and a cadence that come with that belief, right? So I showed them how to go within to connect deeper into whatever that practice is. Mine, per se, is going to be their meditation. I believe that it allows you. Somebody recently asked me, and I'll say it this way. Somebody recently asked me, they said, "Why do you meditate?" I said, "To remember self." They said, "What do you mean by that?" Who was I before the anxiety? Who was I before the fear? Who was I before the uncertainty? That was the authentic version of me, and that's who I meditate to become. So I'm able to slow this world down because this world is moving so quick with the emergence of AI and then all of these new technologies, which I do dabble in as well. Majority, 100% of my company is AI operated or automated. So I believe in that technology. I think one of the biggest things for me is to be able to get individuals to a place that they really understand, well, who are you? Who were you before that? So that comes with silencing yourself, settling your body, and becoming your greatest wonder. And that's all right. I see my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
expect that.
Yeah. So, but that which we experience on the journey sometimes cause us to take on things that may not be so related,
Right, 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 right.
to our journey. But how would you encourage Black men to navigate through that which doesn't really benefit us,
Mhm.
but it's part of the journey? I know you share, you use meditation to take you to that place of calm to help
Mhm.
you to navigate. And I've also, as you shared, that you don't really tell people what to believe, but they need to believe it. But
Absolutely.
suppose they don't really have that firm belief, or they're
Mm.
still struggling with that belief. How do you encourage them to Black men to go through those challenging moments that they're experiencing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think going back to our original conversation, where we talked about that once that everything worth it must be tested, that it is not sent to take you out. It's simply sent to take you in. And what I mean by that is to go deeper within you. Embrace what that feels like. There's been situations I go through now that don't feel good. That they don't, I'm not understanding why they may even be happening. But I understand that that is a course of life. That is the course of their life, and that is their path. Then I get to choose how I'm going to show up and support in that situation. So I think first of all, it is the mindset of how do you even go through. Most people don't even know how to go through things. They crumble under pressure. They
Yeah.
crumble over the thoughts or the words or opinions of others. It's whenever those words have now become true. When those words have become true, you react to them. But if the words are not true, I don't respond. So I think one of the biggest things right now is to know from that place that no matter what life throws at me, that I get to choose on how I'm going to go through it. Because it's not sent to take me out.
Correct.
It is not sent to destroy you. It's sent to refine you. It's sent to it's sent to I'll say it this way. In order for a drop of olive oil to come out of an olive, it has to go through something called the crushing and the pressing. And it's a deep grind just to get an ounce. That's us. There is something inside of you that life is trying to get out of you. It's trying to teach you something, not to tear you down and woe is me and the world is against me. It's not. It's sent to teach you something. It's sent for you to go through things, and now you have a cadence of track record with life. I always tell people the reason things don't bother me because I got enough track record with life. I told somebody in Canada, I told my wife, I said, on my tombstone, I said, on my tombstone, I want you to understand. And he got everything he needed from life. because I was willing to take a toe to toe with life and say to guess what? Take your best shot. Because I got the mental knowledge, because I've already seen the end of the thing, right? And that we win. So if you walk around life knowing that guess what? No matter what, I'm gonna win, it changes everything. So it goes back to your self-talk, right? There's something I say. I said the God is either gonna make a way or God is gonna make a way. So instantly, what that does psychologically, my brain is looking for a exit strategy. So if I would have said God is going to make a way or he won't, my mind would automatically say, well, if it don't happen, then you already knew. No, I'd give my brain no opportunity. I'm either going to win or I'm going to win. And
That's
it's an
right.
internal. So now my subconscious mind flows into it. My power of visualization, what does that win now look like? Comes into play. And now I have a recipe for success that now I can move around knowing that guess what? It's going to work in my favor. So they get my excellence. Because I already know my excellence is going to help me get there as well. So that's what I wanted to share.
No, man, that's really important. I do believe that, if you think from that perspective, you will navigate life challenges because there will be challenges. And your
Yes.
perspective on the challenges really matter because, it determines what you do when you're going through the process. Because people ask, like a lot of times, how do you navigate? How do you do all these things? You don't have bad days, but it's what you do in the bad days. But you see, but as you mentioned, even with your transformation, when you did the bodybuilding, it takes a certain level of discipline. And once you become a disciplined person, the things that you do to help you,
That's right.
life, or when life is lifing, as they would say,
Yeah.
you already develop that discipline.
That's
So
right.
it becomes easier to
That's right.
do the things that some would not do
That's
because
right.
they haven't taken the time to develop the discipline. Because some
That's right.
people, if they're not motivated, they're not going to take action.
Not at all.
And once you have the discipline, despite life challenges, you're more likely to do the things that will help you to advance, even in the rough time, and
That's
even to
right.
get things done, even in the rough time, because
That's
those things will pass as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that becomes a difference is that I know that this thing is going to work in my favor. Me and my wife have this cadence that we say only the best experiences, right? No matter where we're at, where we're going, only the best experiences. And we've been in situations that, I mean, American Idol, we had a regular karaoke bar, right? And American Idol contestants had came out to do the karaoke. We were like, only the best experience to down to hotels, flights. Whenever we have a situation, if something may seem like it won't go right, we look at each other and we say, only the best experiences. So now we've created a cadence. Remember, that's an energy. And
Yes,
now we're both collectively on it. It becomes stronger. So now everything around us conspires. So that's why it is important. The words that Black men are speaking to themselves right now, because you're creating.
correct.
Wherever you're speaking, you're creating an atmosphere for those words to live in. Man, things ain't gonna work out for me, and I'm guarantee you that it won't work out for you
Yeah, because
because
you're
whether you
speaking it.
think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. So now you're now dealing in another cadence, and that's the place that Black men need to get into. That they expect the best. It doesn't matter about age. I'm a part of a bodybuilding troupe called Hero Outliers, ran by Jerome Teasley. And all of us are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old.
Wow.
And we get out on these stages and we whoop these young boys and young ladies because age in the body does what this says.
Correct,
If
correct.
you can fine tune that brain, your body will scope. I just finished winning the Lee Haney Games, one of the most prestigious amateur bodybuilding shows. I went down there and won two classes, 40 and older, and my open class B.
Wow.
You're able to do whatever this says. So that's one of the beauties of it, that it does transcend what people think is possible.
Correct.
They were like, "Oh, you're older, so my muscle gonna do what I tell it to do."
That's
Because I
right.
train, I train that way, and that's something I had to learn. If I can be honest with you, Dr. Cross, I had to learn to really train at a high level because I didn't know there was a difference between working out and training. Working out, I mean, I do it every now and then. If I miss a day, cool. If I'm sore, I won't show up. But training means that I have a goal.
Yeah.
I have a goal of what I'm doing. So every day I'm fueling, knowing that guess what? At the end of when it's all said and done and when the dust settles, that I'll be what I said I'll become. So that's why that there's an energy with the way that we even train our bodies.
Man, that is important and a great reminder, because that is also one thing as Black men that we have to really take serious: our health,
Yes.
our physical health, yes, and our mental health and emotional health. But one of the things that have been, on the radar of lately, outside of mental health, is our
Yes.
physical health,
Yes.
and it's important. But as you mentioned, that our body will do what the mind says. And I strongly believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. Uh,
Yes.
I'm at the gym. I go to the gym 7 days a week.
I
Uh,
can tell. Look,
yeah,
look, you can tell.
I'm there, and,
Put
and
on
and
that suit.
yes, sir, yes, sir, man. The suit gotta fit, So I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there, man. I tell you, man, I'm gonna be there. But the younger generation, when they see me in the gym, to them, they,
Yeah.
they they swear that I'm like super young. I'm their age.
Same.
But because of some of the things that they see that I'm doing, but
Yep.
it goes back to the point that you have made. The body will do what the mind,
That's right.
tells it. And I
Absolutely.
think that's one thing as Black men we need to really get a hold of. And the
Mhm.
older we get, the more important it is, because we start to talk ourselves out of doing some of the things
Yep.
because we think we're getting older. No, man, we can't do it. But if we think that way, that's
That's
what's
right.
going to happen. So I
That's
really,
right.
appreciate, you sharing or bring that up, so we can remember how
Mhm.
important that is when it comes to, what we do and who we become, and even
That's
to
right.
transform our lives. Because as you
Yes.
mentioned, for us as Black men, when we reach a certain age at 40 or above, we start to think that, man, we can't do these things.
Yep.
But yes, we
Yep.
can.
Absolutely. I'm 42 years old.
That's
And I
right.
and I and I go out there and I give these young boys hell.
Man, for real, for real. And it boils down to mindset. And I think that is something that, is
That's
really
right.
important that we remember, when it
There you
comes
go.
to our own transformation,
Yes.
because we are only limited by what we think we're
That's
limited to.
that's
We're
right.
not all going to do the same things in life, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean we should limit ourselves to certain
That's right.
things because of where we are at, even at, our age. So I
That's right.
really appreciate that. But my next question to you is, what change do you want to see in general amongst Black men?
Oh man, support. A community of brothers that really support each other. One of the things with my transformation program, Transform 90, is that we create a group, right, in an ecosystem that Black men know that it's okay to be them. You'll be very surprised, and of course you won't with the type of work that you do, how much Black men don't share. They're literally suffering in silence
Yeah,
because they never had an example of what being a father was like, what it means to even be a husband. They never had an example. So they are struggling trying to fit this image or this mold of what society say they have to be. And they're not winning the battle. So I think that's one of the biggest things for me is to be able to share with them that guess what? You need support. When I had a brother in one of my groups, when he said that he was having issues with a young lady that he's seeing, and it was just really from a commitment standpoint, right? And he said, I just can't get it together. And one of the pressing questions that I asked him, and I told him, look in the camera, I said, how's the relationship with your mother? Because she was the first example. And there may have been things that happened that made you feel subconsciously that I no longer can commit or trust a Black woman. And you've now carried that on throughout your whole life and it's showing up in now your relationships. I said, so now the first thing you need to do is now heal that. And it doesn't mean confrontationally go to that individual, but heal the feeling of what it felt like to be let down. Then it'll foster your now a new energy and a new understanding between that person that you love and you admire. So I think that's one of the biggest things is just that is being able to kind of tackle it from that standpoint. So that to be able to look in that mirror and to be able to have a community around you to say, hey, black man, I understand. I get where you're at. And they're all celebrating you. So, and I know it's not time to talk about
Yeah.
my program, but I mean, what we have created is something very unique among black men.
And you're right in regards to the challenges that are the experiences that we
Mhm.
experience growing up can affect us in our in our lives, present life.
Mhm.
Because if you didn't have a good experience,
Right.
without addressing it, it will affect how you deal with, your current situation, your current relationships. So I do
Yes.
believe that that's important. And a lot of times, as you mentioned, black men, we don't talk about the challenges that we are going through,
Mhm.
because it's a level of trust that you have to develop,
That's right.
to be vulnerable, to share the challenges, which will help us to get past what we are dealing with. And we have to train ourselves or retrain
Mhm.
ourselves, because as you mentioned, that some of us didn't grow up in an environment where we had the example. And if we
Right.
didn't have the example, then we have to learn on sometimes on our own and
Mhm.
through some connections, because you connect with other black men through your job, through the programs you do, and you realize that how they operate is different from how you operate, because their experience, they had a different experience. They may have a more solid foundation, so you
Right.
can see through them. Oh man,
Yeah.
maybe I need to change this. Maybe I need to become confident in this area. So it's having others around you, as you mentioned, if you don't have like a coach or someone to, coach you through, because
Yes.
we all need the coach. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how, I like to tell people, it doesn't matter how motivated or how talented you are. We
Mhm.
all need that sounding board. We all need that coach to get through life challenges. And I like to give people the example of some of the most outstanding athletes. They're talented, but they wouldn't make it to that point if they didn't have a coach. And the same thing
Absolutely.
applies to us, as individuals in whatever area we choose to pursue. We need the guidance at times to become all that we are capable of becoming. So,
That's right.
my next question to you is, what was a pivotal moment in your life? Listening to you, I've heard several pivotal moments, but just from your perspective, what was a pivotal moment in your life?
Oh man. I think it was the moment that I understood the difference between thrival and survival. I had been divorced, and at that moment I was homeless, right?
Wow.
And I never forget. I've always been the type of individual that in the craziest of times, I had a ridiculous amount of faith, right? Like I always knew I was like, oh, it's gonna work out. I've always been that optimistic individual where I always knew. I mean, I ran out of gas one time on the interstate on in the middle of nowhere, right? And I never panicked. I never panicked in situations like that. And I said, it'll work out. So what I did, I looked up to the sky and I said, I know it'll work out. A car was going down the road, saw my fraternity tags in the very back of the truck. He ended up being a fraternity brother of mine, pulled over in the interstate, reversed back half a mile, and
Wow.
came around and came to my aid. And I remember that moment so clear that I was always protected, right? So I was in a state of survival. I was trying to figure out, well, how am I going to survive? But I always knew that I would, right? And it was one day I made a decision. I said, I no longer desire to be in survival anymore. I now want to move into thrival. I started healing areas of my life, right? Where I was showing up in lack, where I wouldn't spend a certain thing because I was like, I don't know if I got it, right? I had to start conditioning myself that there was always, and hear me, listeners, that there was always more than enough. I conditioned that in my mind that no matter where I was at, that I always had more than enough, and there was always more than enough. And it conditioned my mind to now that became my reality. And now I'm in a place of thrival that I'm able to do what I desire to do. Me and my beautiful wife, we get to travel. We get to have experiences. I told somebody recently, Dr. Cross, I said, I travel to see if it's true. They were like, what's true? Let me see if the now really run backwards. Let me see if the people in Bali are the way that they say they are. Or let me go to Jamaica to experience a culture. You know what I mean? Soon, let me go to Greece, and we're going to Italy this year because I want to find out if it's true. So I'm in a place of thrival now, right? But my thought process behind thrival started when I was in survival. When I had nothing, I knew I could have everything. When I did not have enough, I knew that there was more than enough that I would have one day. So every day I got up with that thought process in mind that there is no lack. Biblically, the Bible speaks of that there's no lack even in the kingdom.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So because there's no lack in the kingdom, I applied that to my life. Let me see if it's true. I applied it to my life. And as I applied it to my life, I evolved into this place that now it is my reality. It is something I subconsciously go to bed, like yourself. I'll put on some headphones. I want to get my subconscious mind moving in a way that it knows no impossibilities, that everything is possible. So when I sleep those 6 to 8 hours, majority of the time is 8 hours. When I get those 8 hours sleep, I want my subconscious mind to be recording. Who am I? I am blessed in the city, blessed in the field. So it's these certain cadences that I am God's champion, that I am my greatest wonder, that my best days are ahead of me and no longer behind me. So I get this cadence and it shows up in the way that I move around the earth because I don't move from a standpoint. Majority of the rooms that I walk into now, Dr. Cross, I'll be honest with you, I'm the only person that look like me. But I walk in with an air of confidence because I know it's the secret to this thing called life is that you put one step in front of the other. So whenever I'm there, my gift is needed. I don't have to shrink. I want to make people uncomfortable by my presence because I live a very disciplined life. But I'm also, remember, real recognizes real. So
Yeah.
I can still go into various communities because they understand, oh, he knows some things.
Correct.
When my brother invited me to Puerto Rico one time, my brother Benjamin, and it was an area that certain people can't go. But they looked at me and they knew, oh, you know some things. You're allowed to come down into this particular area because
So
real recognizes real. But I do also move with a level of humbleness
yeah.
because I know that anybody can be here.
Yeah.
I just made the decision that I wanted it to be me. And that's what I'm teaching Black men right now. Those exact things like that don't shrink, stand up even taller, and once you embrace who you are uniquely and authentically, despite what people think, I could care less what people think.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I think that you're able to be fully embodied.
Yeah, and just listening to just that pivotal moment, how you get to that point, but knowing that enough is there, that's really transformative in a sense where a lot of us don't realize that, we sometimes are thinking in survival because that's what we are conditioned to
Yeah.
think like survival. But
Mm-hmm.
just to get from that point, but just from what you said, still knowing that things would work out,
That's right.
and you have that belief and have that faith, but it always about survival. But
Yep.
just to realize that more is there or enough is there, and to think from that perspective, and just listening to you, it goes back to what you said in the beginning about
Mhm.
mindset,
That's right.
because we going to believe what we say or what we
That's
think. So if we think that we are in survival or we will survive, that's what we believe. That's what's going to happen. And
Yep.
once we shift that mindset
Yep.
of greater or more is possible, then we
Mm-hmm.
start to experience more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because our actions is going to reflect what we believe. So we're going to
Mm-hmm.
do the things that reflects our action. So I really believe that's a really great reminder for all of us on this journey to start thinking that more is possible. And I like that you bring up the Bible because that's what it says. Enough is there. So we have to
Yes.
get into the mindset of abundance and not scarcity. And
Absolutely.
too many times that's where we are. And it stems from the environment
That's
that
right.
we grew up in, where we have this lack of belief or
Mm-hmm.
possibility, based on our environment. So I really appreciate that perspective and how you realize that things can change by
Absolutely.
changing the way you think about your own situation. So my next question to you is, what life lesson have you
Mm.
learned late in life that you believe is important and can benefit this current generation?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually a quote that I live by, and it says that everything you wants you once you are clear on what you really want.
Wow.
Majority of individuals lack clarity. You kind of want it, kind of don't want it. So, and remember, we built in these buffers that says, well, if I don't get it, I knew I wasn't going to get it anyway. So whenever you become clear on what you want, first of all, identify this is the goal or this is the thing that I want. I get clear on it. How do you get clear on it? What is your daily reminder of that thing you say you want? So for me, it could be on the front of your phone. It could be written on your mirror like mine is on my board. And I look at it every day. I'm reminded of the direction that I'm going. I'm clear on my path. That's a visual reminder. The more that I see it in time, I'll become it. So I get that constant reminder every day that you are working towards something, that you are building something that this world needs. So once you are clear on it, it wants you too. It wants to marry to you. You become a magnet for that thing that you say that you want. And a lot of times people have made this a foo-foo thing, but it's a very real thing. I have lived it. A lot of my clients, they live it, where it seemed like you're not even living in this world because so many good things are happening to you because you become a magnet for those things. There is nothing that the Bible said that he will hold no good thing from those that he loves.
Right.
So I have learned and understand what that love is.
Man, that is really powerful right there. And that's a great reminder for not just the current generation or it's just a great reminder for all of us. We have to have that belief that that which we want
That's
wants
right.
us, and
That's
to
right.
remind ourselves daily that's what we want. But the thing about clarity is really important, because
Mhm.
clarity helps you to determine the actions you take, the way you think, and how
Mhm.
you show up in your daily life. I think
Mhm.
that is really important. And before I ask my final question,
Mhm.
where can the listeners find you and help support your work that you're doing to make a difference? Where can they find you to support you and your work?
Absolutely. Well, I have 100+ videos on meditation and mindfulness that are absolutely, it shows people how to really still the mind, and it's specifically for Black men. I run a transformation program called Transform 90. So that's Transform 90. And then there's of course, LinkedIn, Dejr Bostick. And then on Instagram, I have Black Men Meditate, which is BLK Men Meditate. So outside of that, everything is Dejr Bostick. That's DejrBostick. And that is pretty much every area that they can kind of contact me with. But I'm excited about it. I have a new cohort that's getting ready to activate latter part of May, which is Transform 90. And it's a mind, body, spirit transformation program. So for specifically for Black men.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I will definitely be putting that in the description, so those who want to reach out to you
Mhm,
can. I do believe you have a lot to offer
mhm.
to Black men in regards to their transformation. So
Mhm.
most definitely will be sharing that in the description so they can reach out to you to learn more and how
Absolutely.
you can help them to transform their lives. So my
Ab-
final question to you is, what impact do you
mhm.
want to have on the world?
Oh man, so I'm getting ready to launch a global initiative called 3D Breaths campaign. I'm big in this when it comes to breath work. I see what it does to the mind. I see what it does to the body and the mental clarity that it gives. So it tackles the mental health issues and that individuals are dealing with when it comes to anxiety, stress, fear, things like that. So I want to get 1 million individuals to take 3D breaths. It's a simple thing and it comes with like a band and things like that. But it seems like a simple thing, but it's very major because there are individuals that are dealing with things on a daily basis and they don't know how to navigate those waters because they don't know how to control their emotions. But if they can breathe, then they truly can live. So as far as the impact, I want somebody to be able to say at the end of my days that because he lived, I can face tomorrow, meaning that I taught tools, tips, and techniques that could create and foster a great life.
Man, that's awesome. And doing things to benefit others, that's the best way to live our lives. As one of my
Absolutely.
mentor once says, the service we provide to
Mhm.
others is the rent we pay for our life on earth. So,
Yeah,
that's, just how we are supposed to live. We're supposed to do the best we can so we can help others to be the best version of themselves. So, Mr. Bostick, man,
yes,
it was great having this conversation with you on how we can make a difference. It's a pleasure, having you here on the Black Male Impact.
absolutely. It's been an honor and a pleasure, Dr. Cross. One of the things that I share with you kind of off camera is that I've watched the work that you've been doing. And when I first saw, I say, who is this man with this suit on? Let me see what he's talking about. This black man with a suit on. Let me see what he's talking about. And to know that you have a heart for people, you have a heart truly for the black man. You're bringing exposure and awareness to some of the conditions and things like that that black men are being plagued with right now, and that you create a platform to bring subject matter experts on that get it, that understand, and more importantly, that's real because real recognize real, and
That's
to
right.
know that you're a fellow Caribbean says values about who we are and who you are as well. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to your conference. I am going to push it like it's my own because I believe in it and I believe in what you're doing. So I'm grateful for this opportunity.
And I appreciate that. Thank you very much, for sharing that. I appreciate it. And listeners, as always, it's our pleasure. It's a pleasure to bring guests that we believe will share information and perspective that is beneficial to all of us as we take on this journey that we call life. And the Black Male Impact is where positive changes are inspired. So we bring guests to inspire everyone that listens to us here on the Black Male Impact. And as always, please continue to support, share, and like in whatever way you can support us on this journey. We appreciate it as we continue to make a difference. Thanks for being here with us on the Black Male Impact.